What's up guys, welcome back to NBA Insider. Before I begin, I would like to give a huge shout out to Hardwood Amino for sponsoring this video. Hardwood Amino is an app literally dedicated for NBA fans and NBA fans only. The app itself is essentially dedicated specifically towards the NBA. The front page is similar to a Facebook feed, but instead it provides things such as top NBA highlights, stories, trade rumors, and much more. Other aspects of the app include the following tab, where you are able to follow one another and travel over to the public chats. The public chats is where you guys can actually join conversations such as this conversation that I joined. In this chat, me and a group of NBA fans talked about whether or not the Clippers were a cursed team, and it was extremely fun. I actually had a good time discussing these topics with fellow NBA fans, and I actually learned a lot about my favorite sport. You can even join the live game chat rooms to talk with a group of dedicated fans who are also watching the same game, which is awesome. Furthermore, if you want to enjoy the app even more, you can click the latest tab icon where you will receive a full selection of latest news and posts provided by NBA fans just like you. However, my favorite aspect of the app is the player's catalog. These catalogs provide a unique and in-depth player profile for every single NBA player, from Damian Lillard and James Harden to Andrew Wiggins and Randy Foye. It also includes breathtaking highlights of the league's most exciting players. Finally, I just want to emphasize that this app is for you guys, the NBA community. As an added bonus, if you write a good post or a link to a good article, you will have the opportunity to have your post featured on the front page. So if you are a fan of the NBA and enjoy my content, I strongly advise you guys to download Hardwood Amino. I've had a great time using the app and I know you guys will love it. I will leave a link in the app for both Android and Apple users in the description down below, and I hope you guys really enjoy it. Without further ado, let's begin. NBA legend Allen Iverson has helped to shape the NBA into what it is today. He had some of the biggest cultural impact on the league in the post-Jordan era. It could be argued whether or not Iverson receives enough credit as a player, but one thing is for sure, all of his fame did not come without struggle. Just like many other NBA stars, the beginning of Allen Iverson's life was not easy. He was born to a single teenage mother and grew up in a rough neighborhood. He would use sports to escape the negativity around him, specifically football and basketball. However, on February 14th, 1993, Iverson would find himself face to face with a situation that could have potentially ruined his life. In this video, I take a look at how Allen Iverson was sentenced to prison. Welcome to NBA Insider. Racism is something that unfortunately still happens to this day, and in 1993 it was still a common practice. Growing up in Hampton, Virginia, Allen Iverson would have to deal with it on a frequent basis. He was especially used to people referring to him as the N-word. Iverson also had people who hated him for being a top high school basketball star. He was named the AP High School Player of the Year in both football and basketball, top high school basketball player in the country, and one of the top 10 football players. He was so good that right after leading his football team to the Virginia State title as a junior quarterback, he promised to do the same in basketball. And he did. He was also the Virginia Player of the Year in both sports. He averaged 31.6 points per game in basketball and scored 21 touchdowns in football. So the talent was clear, but so was the hate. Suddenly on February 14th, 1993, everything changed. On this day, 17-year-old Allen Iverson, along with a group of friends, all black students, decide to head to a bowling alley called Circle Lanes. There they planned to bowl, eat food, and have a good time overall. When they arrived, a woman at the counter sent them to the end of the alley to a small lane that was pretty uncomfortable since it was really close to the wall. Michael Simmons, Allen Iverson's friend since middle school, always seemed to be sent to the same lane each time he came to the establishment, as if she would give him the bad lane on purpose. By the time they got their shoes and balls, it was 10:30. The bowling alley was fairly busy. Anyhow, the kids started having a good time as they would bowl, stand on chairs, and curse loudly. Normal things any regular teenager would do. Somebody from the alley told them to keep it down not once, but twice. But having as much fun as they were, they continued to play. Allen and a couple of his friends decided to go to the snack bar on the other side of the alley, over by a group of Caucasian males. As Iverson approached, the guys were finishing their last bowling game. A man by the name of Steve Forrest, who was 22 years old at the time, grilled Iverson. The way Allen Iverson tells it, one of Steve's friends called him the N-word and a little boy. That's when Iverson lost it. Now, Steve Forrest was fairly big at 6'2" and weighing 200 pounds. On top of that, he had a few felony convictions, one of which included cocaine possession. But Iverson at 6'1" and 175 pounds was way smaller. "You ain't gonna do nothing to me," Iverson responded. Then, according to Iverson and his friends, Forrest swung a chair at him and started the fight. Both chairs and fists went flying. The remainder of Iverson's friends heard the dispute happening and jumped in to help. In the end, two people were knocked unconscious. One of them, a 23-year-old college student named Barbara Steele, was struck by a chair and would receive 6 stitches near her left eye. Police immediately made an appearance and eventually made 4 arrests. The crazy part about it, all 4 suspects, Iverson, Simmons, Melvin Stevens Jr., and Samuel Wynn, were black. Many residents of Hamptons found it strange that the police broke up a huge group of fighting people only to come out with 4 black males. But many people also thought that they'd only get a slap on the wrist and that would be the end of it. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. In July, Iverson, Simmons, and Wynn were convicted as adults for maiming by mob. This basically meant Iverson and his friends had intentions to kill Steve and his associates, even though it was Steve that initially began the fight. Despite this shocking turn of events, many people still thought that they would receive probation or perhaps a few hundred hours of community service. Instead, on September 8th, Judge Nelson Overton sentenced each of the 3 to 15 years in prison. To top things off, the judge denied all bail requests, even though prisoners convicted of crazier crimes such as murder and rape are all allowed to have bail. Outraged by this clear display of discrimination, 150 protesters marched through Hampton yelling, "Free the Hampton 4" and "No justice, no peace." Only one protester was white. Many blacks were also wearing Free Iverson t-shirts. This group would eventually call themselves SWIS, an acronym for Simmons, Wynn, Iverson, and Steven. It was a really scary time for Iverson. It was like everyone was out for him. Witnesses would claim it was Iverson who initially started the fight and that Steve was just acting in self-defense. Even the girl who was hit by the chair testified that Iverson was the one who threw the chair. Iverson would eventually reply to these allegations by saying, "People try to start things with me because of who I am, and I know that means I have to stay away. It's definitely racial." But despite his statements that he was innocent of any wrongdoing, a number of witnesses said Iverson was in the middle of the brawl, which fits his style. As a player, Iverson was known to be a cocky individual. Steve Forrest testified in court that Iverson got in his face and started the fight for no good reason. Many would believe Steve's statement and try to blame Iverson since he had a troubled past. Iverson grew up in a bad neighborhood with no father or money. He had his fair share of problems, but the closest he had ever been involved with a crime before the fight was a traffic violation. But the bigger question here was, why were 3 teenagers locked away in jail for such a small offense? They were given long prison sentences because they got in a fight in a bowling alley, said Iverson's attorney James Ellenson. These white guys got their butts kicked in a fight, and hey, somebody had to put those black kids in their place, make an example out of them. That somebody was Judge Overton. Overton was known to be tough on black defendants. He was the judge who gave a prison sentence for a fight as if the kids were rapists and murderers. The judge sentenced Iverson to 15 years for his role in the fight, an incident in which no one was seriously injured and where none of the white men from the bowling alley were charged. Iverson and his 3 friends each spent 4 months in prison. Even during his prison sentence, Iverson was still receiving support and love. He would receive tons of mail in which ladies were sending him their belongings, gifts, and even money. Many reporters were even requesting interviews with Iverson despite his situation. In 1995, Allen Iverson was pardoned by Virginia Governor Douglas Wilder with his conviction overturned by the Virginia Court of Appeals after serving just 4 months at a correctional facility because there was not enough evidence. Just 24 hours after, Iverson was back on the basketball court. He immediately joined in the local summer league. His release was such a big deal that a majority of the city overpacked the gym with a long line of people standing outside because of lack of space. In his first game out of prison, Allen Iverson scored 40 points and combined for a total of 99 points in 3 days against some of the best college talent in the city. Despite this performance, some college basketball coaches were scared to recruit Iverson considering he was just released from prison. Sure, he was an amazing point guard, but he was making as much news in court as he was on the court. However, it would eventually be their loss because we all know how well Iverson turned out to be. Meanwhile, Barbara Steele, the girl hit by the chair, filed a $200,000 lawsuit against Allen Iverson, but that poor attempt at taking advantage would fail. To this day, Allen Iverson credits NBC's Tom Brokaw for helping him. Tom was the reporter who covered the story on Iverson's injustice, which eventually helped to bring the public's attention and support towards the matter. Had he not done that story, Iverson would have most likely remained in prison and be added to the list of black males in the prison system, which means he never would have touched an NBA court. Just imagine that. Iverson would say, "I had to use the whole jail situation as something positive. Going to jail, someone sees something weak in you. They'll exploit it. I never showed my weakness. I just kept going strong until I came out. This has given me time to think about what I need to do to succeed in the world." In the end, Allen Iverson would continue his basketball journey by playing 2 years at Georgetown, being drafted #1 overall by the Philadelphia 76ers, and creating one of the most motivational basketball stories in NBA history. And that concludes the video. For a very long time, I couldn't comprehend why Allen Iverson and his friends were the only individuals placed in handcuffs that night. But after doing plenty of research, I saw the amount of racism that was present in Hampton during the early 90s. Iverson had a large number of supporters, mainly African Americans. They wanted nothing but for him to be treated fairly during the trial. Those who were not convinced of Iverson's innocence felt that the law should be even more strict. So you see, this trial was much bigger than Allen Iverson. It really showed people how complex a situation can become simply because of the color of your skin. What if the charge brought up against Allen Iverson wasn't dropped? Georgetown University and the NBA, along with fans like us, would have missed out on one of the best ball handlers the game has ever seen. Now, I know you guys might not be the biggest Allen Iverson fans, and yes, he is not always the best behaved person on the court, but after learning learning about all the struggles he faced to get to where he did, you should have a newfound respect for him. If you guys are interested in Iverson's case and his history, I strongly suggest you check out ESPN's 30 for 30 documentary they did on his case. I will leave a link to it in the comment section down below. As always, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. If I made any mistakes or missed anything that you felt should have been included, let me know. Also, if you have any recommendations for future videos such as interesting stories or topics like this, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. And as always, thanks for watching NBA Insider.